The Alumni Council, I turn to President Dia Poole. Dia.
Thank you, Chair Monville, and greetings, everyone. There are several key alumni activities this month I would like to share with you. First, coming up next Wednesday is Back to College Night, the annual reception in Washington, D.C. for alumni of any institution of higher education in California, hosted by the California State Society. CSU always has the largest turnout with several hundred alumni, and we expect this year to be no exception. This is a great professional networking opportunity for our active alumni base in Washington. The following week, on September 25th and 26th, the Alumni Council will be hosted for its fall meeting at CSU Stanislaus. We are grateful to President Shealy for opening his campus to us and are pleased to be visiting Academic Senate Chair Filling's home campus. The Alumni Council will participate in professional development discussions centered on best practices in engaging recent alumni. This topic is critical as early engagement of alumni leads to lifelong engagement and commitment. Chancellor White, trustees, we extend an open invitation to you to attend our meetings and to participate in these important discussions. As we discussed at the July meeting, the Alumni Council is conducting the search for the next alumni trustee to take office after Trustee Monville's term concludes on June 30th, 2016. Campus leadership received additional details on the nomination process in late August. The period for campuses to nominate candidates for the position opened September 1st and will close on November 30th of this year. Nominees will be reviewed by the Alumni Council's Trustee Selection and Evaluation Committee, which will select and interview semifinalists before selecting finalists that will be interviewed by the full Alumni Council Board of Directors at its meeting in April of 2016. As part of the election preparation process, the Trustee Selection and Evaluation Committee formalized a roles and responsibilities document for the alumni trustee, which brings together the broad set of expectations we have for those seeking the position. This includes the alumni trustee seeking committee and board leadership positions, as Trustee Monville and Trustee Emeritus Linscheid have done, to ensure that they are fully engaged in the board's work. We look forward to keeping you updated as the process moves forward. I'm now pleased to introduce our guest alumni speaker to you. Yesterday, you met our outstanding 2015 recipients of the Trustees Award for Outstanding Achievement. These scholars remind us why we feel so passionate about the CSU to support our incredible students in their pursuit of higher education. Today, we are fortunate to have with us an alumnus who is a previous recipient of the Trustees Award for Outstanding Achievement. Clayton Tresca was a 2013 Trustee Emeritus Ali C. Razi Scholar while pursuing his undergraduate degree in kinesiology at San Diego State University. A Marine Corps veteran and a cancer survivor, Clayton defied the odds of his diagnosis by becoming both an Ironman World Championships triathlete and a first-generation college graduate. He now serves as an administrative manager for the UC San Diego Moores Cancer Center. Clayton is joined today by his guest, Ms. Tiffany Marquez. Clayton, we welcome back to the Board of Trustees meeting. Please.
Thank you, Ms. Poole. Forgive me, I wanted to take it all in for a second. It's Chancellor White, CSU presidents, educators, administrators, thank you so much for having me back here to Long Beach again. It certainly is an honor. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to give you an update on this past year's successes after receiving this prestigious award. Like any good story, I think we should always start from the beginning. And to remind you a little bit of the history of what brought me not only here to today, but also to the CSU family. I'm 35 years old, and when I had the opportunity to go to college, it wasn't necessarily in the cards for me. Not that I was afforded more or less than the peers around me, but just the environment that I was raised in, it just wasn't really presented as something that was feasible at the time. So like some people tend to do, I decided to join the military to try to find myself. And quite literally I did during my tenure. I served 13 years in the Marines. And the first years in the Marines, this was before 9/11, I didn't score high enough on the placement test to get anything higher than, to be placed higher than an infantry or artillery. So I spent my first years there. But then the military itself taught me about focus, and it taught me about discipline. And so once the war kicked off after September 11th, I redid the ASVAB to apply to get into the elite counterintelligence group for the Department of the Navy, the United States Marine Corps. And I scored within the highest percentile. And I spent the rest of my years in the Marines as a counterintelligence agent, collecting vital information and quite literally saving lives. I thought that that was going to be what I was going to do for the rest of my life until the day that I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. It's interesting being diagnosed with a disease such as terminal cancer, let alone a diagnosis of terminal, because you realize how human you really are. And not only that, it also reminds you that life is short. So what I decided to do is take full advantage of whatever time that I have left and pursue the dreams and endeavors and the things that I always wanted to pursue. And ironically, one of them was to become an Ironman triathlete. And the other one was to get a college education. Of course, you know the college aspect of it, what that entails. But for those of you that don't know about the Ironman is one of the world's hardest endurance races. It's a 140-mile swim, bike, and run. The swim portion is 2.5 miles in open ocean. The bike portion is 112, and there's a full distance marathon. To give you an idea, all within one afternoon, to give you an idea what that means, the bike portion in itself would be the equivalent, I checked this last night, it would be cycling from this building to downtown San Diego in one sitting, and then you have to run the full marathon. And all that, of course, was after the 2.5-mile swim. So you can imagine what would a terminal cancer patient be doing thinking that they were going to be doing something like this. And you know what it was? It was the realization. It was the realization that, you know, in your darkest hour, it's the love in your heart that will illuminate the path to success. And I wasn't thinking to myself that I was actually going to become an Ironman or a college graduate. I just knew that it was the right thing to do. So when I was hospitalized and diagnosed with terminal cancer, I went through multiple bone marrow transplants. In the middle of doing that, I also was training for this sport that I actually had never done before. I hadn't ridden a bike or knew how to swim, but that was irrelevant at the time. You can't tell a dying cancer patient they can't do something because that will make them want to do it even more. So, and in this whole process, I also decided to pursue an education, again, because it was one of those bucket listers. My father always pressed upon me the importance of an education, not because he ever had one, but because he didn't have one. He never graduated from high school. He's part of that generation that it was solely hard work that can get you to where you needed to go. And I'm not saying that that's not the case today, but I'm saying in his generation it was more so. So I decided to apply for the special admissions program into San Diego State. And it was funny because whenever I was applying for this program, they reminded me that I'm not expected to live that long. And I reminded them that, well, there shouldn't be a problem in giving it to me then because you can always find somebody else. And so they gave me the position. So more or less, here I am, dying in the hospital, going through bone marrow transplants, training for an endurance sport that I've never done, in a distance that was almost impossible, applying for a college that I'm not supposed to be at or not supposed to live long enough to attend. So you can imagine that, well, to be honest with you, it was kind of liberating, the feeling, because it really shows you what's important in life. Your spoken word, your commitment, your dedication, the things that you decide to do that transcend, not the cars, the money, the notoriety, or the attention, but it was the right thing to do, and especially in an environment of cancer, because you're surrounded by peers of men, women, and children who are all fighting for their life, and they're all going through the same struggles. Cancer doesn't discriminate. No matter how educated you are, how rich you are, how poor you are, you can have it or you can't. It doesn't discriminate. And when my friends around me that I made in the inpatient ward weren't making it and weren't leaving, that's when I decided that this was real, that this wasn't just something that I needed to do, it's something that I had to do. It became a destiny to make these, to beat this disease and to actually achieve these goals. So I was released from the hospital, beating my disease while training in the hospital for this sport that I had never done in August of 2010. I moved into San Diego State that week to start my first semester as a freshman, and I was at the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii 8 weeks later. And so, you know, what a transition from going from one point to the other. And you can imagine when you go into this environment after being in war and seeing carnage and going through all these experiences, I kind of felt like I was walking in my freshman year for my undergraduate, but I had already earned a PhD in life. So going into school and going through this process, working with the community and volunteering all of my time, I was eventually afforded the opportunity and the privilege to be nominated for the CSU Trustees Awards for Outstanding Achievement. And I have to tell you that being exposed to this environment reaffirmed the notion that I've always known to be true, is that the pen truly is mightier than the sword. I have used the sword myself in real life, and I am in the process ever since I started school to learning how to wield the pen and learning the power of it and what it can do and how it can shape and mold not only my life, but the people who I care about, the people who I love, and the people who I trust, namely the cancer patients that I have advocated for ever since my diagnosis, the children. And I'll tell you something, it's something else being a cancer patient advocate, because you really do see what true suffering is. There is nothing in this world that is more challenging to watch in some ways, but more heartbreaking than to see a mother leaning over their son or daughter's bed, holding their hand for their last moments. You know, it's something that will stick with you forever. And it's something I think about every day. And since I am allowed the opportunity to live another day and afforded the leverage through the scholarship, I've taken every opportunity that I could to try to make it to the next step and higher and higher and higher within the echelons of healthcare. So through the scholarship and through the privileges that you have afforded me, I was not only accepted as an employee into UCSD, but I was the only undergraduate intern accepted into the executive level of the UCSD health system. So here I am. I'm an undergraduate, a kinesiology major, surrounded by MBA and MPH candidates, and of course graduates. And I have to hold my own. So thank goodness for the internet and YouTube, because I had to figure out how to do it myself, you know? And but remember, mind you, that when you're being put in this position, it wasn't to try to elevate myself and become the most notable and the most and to become the most popular person. It was to ensure that all the people that endorsed me, from the nurse that incepted me into the hospital that told me don't quit, to the cancer patient that called me an inspiration. And I'll tell you something. I've been called many things in my life, but an inspiration is never one of them. And if you ever hear that, those are choice words, and it will change your perspective on the world and everything, and it has ever since. And so now to today, and what I'm doing with the health system and my job and my roles, it is to express gratitude and to ensure that their investment of time in encouraging me and your investment in time into giving me this scholarship and this opportunity was not squandered. Case in point, as an intern, I developed the very first integrative oncology program for UCSD, for the Oncology Center. We have 36 different modalities of care. which are 24 more modalities than our closest regional competitor. I learned how to build the performa. I learned how to connect the dots. I learned how to bring the physicians and the physician champions together without ever taking one business class. It was going to my peers and people around me to my right and to my left and asking them their opinions and what I should do and trying to accrue that knowledge, that same type of knowledge that I tried to accrue through life, you know. Also, after I graduated, then I was taken on as an administrative manager. An administrative manager within the UC Health System, somebody who does this permanently, develops and designs business plans and develops programs to better not only optimize the clinic, but to provide better services. One of my programs had an $8 million profit margin in its first year just off of optimization of the clinic. And what that means to me is not optimization as far as volumes and throughput to patients, but that's how many more lives we can save. And in closing, I would like to note that that's what this type of scholarship does, is it affords people like me, people who under any other circumstances should not be afforded these opportunities, and gives them a chance to make a difference in the world. And you're guaranteed one thing for sure when you do that for my demographic, as I like to call it, is you're assured that that person that you're giving this opportunity to appreciates it and takes it and runs with it and ensures that they do everything they can to not only better themselves, but to show you how much we appreciate what you've done for us. And they will continue, like myself, to do everything within their power to better the community and make a difference. And so now that I'm looking down the barrel of a grad school, and I'm going to work at 6 a.m. and leaving work at 9 o'clock at night because I do the tail end of the day studying for GMATs, I'm looking forward to this next chapter because, again, I have learned the power of the pen. I have learned how important education is. It is absolutely undeniable. And in the years to come, you will see me again, perhaps not sitting in this chair, but you will see me again and you'll say, I know that guy. I was there for him and I helped him and I do not regret it. And I am incredibly proud of what he's done, not only for himself, but for the community around him. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here today and express my gratitude.
Thank you, Clayton. It's very hard to speak after hearing you. Your story does continue to be an inspiration, and I won't use that word lightly, to us and to your fellow trustee scholars. Best wishes to you on the next steps of your journey. And thank you, Ms. Tiffany, for being with us today. Chair Monville, this concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Well, I just think we ought to adjourn the meeting, quite frankly. There's a couple of things that I just feel compelled to say. First off, Clayton, I am so proud as a member of this board to see you showing our friends in the UC that the learn by doing model does in fact work. So first and foremost, I thank you for that. But I do also thank you for your inspiration, your example, and your service. So Semper Fi.